Hello, good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of Off the Fence, brought to you in association, of course, with BoyleSports, courtesy... Oh, no. Oh, hang on, guys. Sorry, false start. My ring light is, is on the wobble in a major way. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Off the Fence, brought to you in association with BoyleSports. You know it by now because we're on episode 11 of season 4, but this is your go-to weekly jumps programme, and I, as always, am joined by Geraghty and Tony Keenan to discuss the last 7 days of jump racing and look ahead. And we have a big section to look ahead to coming up in this show. We also get to reveal the latest winner of the BoyleSports free bet, and we've also got 3 pretty big price boosts for you courtesy of BoyleSports, and we have another free bet to give away. So loads coming your way in the next 30 minutes or so. So without further ado, let's crack straight on and check in with the boys. Geraghty, how are you for starters?
Good, Vanessa. Quiet weekend. Watched a little bit of racing that was on, but no, all was good, but nice and quiet.
Nice, just how we like it. I'm a lover of January, by the way, boys. January is my month. It's like quiet time and I love it. How do you feel about January, Tony?
Yeah, not bad. Yes, grand. Couple of the NFL's the other sport I like in January. It kind of comes to the buckle end of it, the quarterfinals and semi-finals as such. So yeah, I enjoy January as well. It is a bit of a pause after Christmas and before it ramps up into the more spring festival type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of quiet time. It won't be quiet this weekend, as I said. Big day of racing, specifically at Cheltenham, but we will get to that a little bit later on in the show. Tony, bit of news that came out in the week, which we will cover at the top of this programme before we get to what happened where, is the retirement of a Plutard, the Gold Cup winner, obviously in the Cheveley Park Silks, big horse for Rachel Blackmore, for Henry de Bromhead, achieved so much and was sensational. When he was right, he really was top class, and a little bit of a surprise and a disappointment, I suppose, to hear that he has retired.
Yeah, they didn't really give him an awful lot of time to redeem himself, which probably tells you a lot in itself, that he probably just has reached the end of the road. A terrific horse, really. Strangely never won back-to-back races, which is kind of unusual for a horse of his kind of a very elevated rate, and he won 8 times, 4 of them at grade 1s. But all 4 of the kind of grade 1s were kind of dramatic, you know, in his way. Like he beat Chac and Persois when he was really fancied over 2 miles at Leopardstown at Christmas. Then there was the Thyestes Chase, again, kind of COVID times when there was nobody there. Absolutely, you know, brilliant finish with Darragh O'Keefe getting up. The Gold Cup, like really the Gold Cup was probably a performance in terms of pure ratings that was as good as any horse has done this century, really. Now he may not be as good as some of the absolute best Gold Cup winners, the Cowdo Stars, but I tell you, he wasn't far off it. And then the Haydock win, it was kind of facile, very kind of impressive. And even kind of, you know, on his bad days in recent years, he'd be placing in Ryanair chases and things like that. So look, his career has kind of taken a bit of a downward turn since the Gold Cup. They did the best to get him back last season. Didn't really work out, but yeah, absolutely brilliant horse over the years, for all kind of concerned, and I'd say definitely kicked, as you said, Rachel Blackmore on a fair bit too.
And funnily enough, you mention all his achievements, Tony, but the one race that really sticks in my mind is that Close Brothers handicap at the festival, when he just scuttled clear, like from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill. It's rare you see a performance like that in a handicap at the festival. And what he did that day, I remember being gobsmacked by that performance.
Yeah, and it is the thing when some of these Irish horses that win the handicaps at Cheltenham Festival, like they're not just well handicapped in the day, they often are grade 1, grade 2 type horse, and he certainly proved himself to be that in the very short term, I think by the following Christmas.
Absolutely right. We wish him a very happy retirement, of course, and he'll be living in a lap of luxury, I would imagine, courtesy of Cheveley Park. Let's crack on with what happened where, because obviously weather has played havoc in the last 7 days. We've had a storm, we've had a pretty deep frost. There was big worry that Lingfield's Winter Millions weekend wouldn't happen at all. They luckily got racing to go ahead on the Sunday, which we'll get stuck into now. But of course, the Clarence House, which we spent so long talking about on last week's show and asked for your contributions, didn't happen, will be happening at Cheltenham on Saturday. Again, we will come to that a little bit later. But let's focus, Barry, on the action that did happen. And the Thyestes Chase at Lingfield on Sunday was really the feature. And we were also looking forward to seeing L'Homme Presse back in action for the Venetia Williams team, taking on Protectorat. And the race really developed into the race we wanted beforehand. What was your take on L'Homme Presse's long-awaited comeback from the injury?
Yeah, it was a good performance. It took him a little bit while for his jumping to warm up. I thought for the first half, a little bit sticky, but the further he went and the better he got. Protectorat really tried to serve it up and made it a test of stamina. But L'Homme Presse, he stamped his class on the race, turning in. He travelled well, he passed the winner, he got the inside track which suited him when he jumped a little bit left, and he held Protectorat all the way to the line. So it was a good performance. There's still potential for improvement in it. Protectorat had been third in a handicap at Cheltenham prior to that, so he was at a good level of form. So no, it was a good comeback run, and as I say, he just had that little bit of class. So no, you'd be happy with him. Obviously he's going to go straight to the Gold Cup on the back of that, and you'd have to have him as a contender.
Yeah, I think they're talking about running him at Ascot, actually, in that February meeting at Ascot. That seemed to be on the owners' list anyway, but I suppose we will see. And he is the first of our price boosts with BoyleSports. Now, don't forget that these are for a limited time only, and you must read the T's and C's. But L'Homme Presse for the Gold Cup has been price boosted from 10 to 1 out to 12 to 1. So a couple of points bigger. Of course, has to take on the reigning champion in Galloping de Champs, and of course Fast or Slow above him in the market. But after that, I think there's space for a bit of that 12s being quite tasty indeed. So get stuck in, but do it responsibly, obviously. Barry, on the same card, we saw JPR1 finally sort of get his jumping act together and put it all together on the day. I know he's well capable of jumping, this horse, for the Tizzards, but a few mistakes at crucial times has probably kept him out of the winner's enclosure in his last couple of runs, but he put it all together in the Lightning Chase, and he now looks like one of the UK's genuine Arkle contenders. Is that a fair statement?
No, I think so, definitely. Obviously jumping cost him in Cheltenham on his 2 starts back when he unseated at the last, when he had the race in the bag. I think he just struggled with the heavy ground in the Henry VIII at Sandown next time. He was beaten 6 lengths by Le Patron, but he seemed to travel and jump. His jump was brilliant at Lingfield. Slightly better ground. It was given a soft. It was between good to soft and soft. It didn't look terribly bad, but he jumped and travelled, stamped his class on the race. Obviously a little bit of a coming together at the first when the JO got taken out by Matata. But Matata ran a good race then to finish second. That obviously took something from it, but you'd have to be really impressed with the winner. How he jumps, how he travels. I think on decent ground at Cheltenham, he's probably got that little bit of class that he could, make a race of it and give you a run for your money, if you like. Marine National will be hard to beat if he turns up, or if Facile Vega happened to bounce back to his form. But I think for the English horses, or for the outsiders, he's definitely one that's going to give you a good run for your money on decent ground, though.
Decent ground, which you'd be hopeful will get, obviously weather dependent, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? In behind Marine National, you're looking for a bit of value, and he may well represent that, JPR1. Quick mention too on the same card, Barry, the Mayor's Novices Hurdle saw a reversal of the placings between Aston Martini, who finished first, was demoted to second, and Ooh Betty for Ben Clark and Ben Jones at a big price, who ended up obviously being promoted to first after their battle to the line, and a bit of a bump from Aston Martini. But ultimately that race, I mean, it's a messy little contest to dissect. I don't know if we'll be looking back at that in future as a strong bit of form. Is that a fair assumption? Maybe
so. It's hard to say. Like, as regards the reversal, it was probably a 50-50 call. There was a slight bit of interference there. It was minimal, but there was only a nose in it at the line, so you could make a case for a reversal. The favourite was back in third, was well beaten. Gavin Cromwell's runner, Paul Paris, Nicky Henderson's other runner, was disappointing as well. So it may have left as many questions as answers. But the two winners had been impressive, or the first and second, should I say, had been impressive, both in maidens and Hereford at the previous start. So maybe there is potential for that form to work out, but we might just have to wait and see.
Indeed. Quick question, Barry. Did you ever have any like reversals that you really felt were unfair in the steward's room?
I got one in Hereford one time. The only winner I rode in Hereford, I got a reversal, one for Ben Pauling. I lost one. I should have got the juvenile in Aintree one year. The champion 4-year-old in Aintree one year. Ruby and myself had it coming together, and I didn't get in the steward's room. But I got another one off at Easter, but it wasn't worth as much.
Good, right, okay. Well, all's fair in love and war and all of that. I can't imagine you being that, like, I don't know, in the steward's room. I bet you, actually saying that, I bet you when the stakes are high, you really did sing for your chances. But anyway, we move on. Tony, let's discuss all things Allaho. Competition coming up, but I want Tony's assessment of what Allaho did in Ireland in the horse and jockey Hotel Chase when we saw him over the weekend. Obviously, he cemented his place as favourite for the Ryanair. Are we getting excited about this performance? I mean, on first viewing, as far as I'm concerned, beating Statler in a canter, all well and good, but I think it's fair to say you can pick holes in the form from the second right the way back, can't you?
I suppose handsome is as handsome does. Like it wasn't particularly pretty. His jumping wasn't great. Although the configuration of the track is probably part of that. You're looking at his form figure superficially this season look good. The 131, but I think like he went to the King George and it wasn't that strongly run of a race. He was probably the fourth best horse. Shishkin's definitely better than him. 4 to 6. I don't know, is that really going to count in spring grade ones? I think the two Irish races that he's running have been very, very similar. He's only had really stable mates to beat. French Dynamite was wrong on Sunday, and he kind of jumped poorly and the ground wasn't ideal. From Paul Town has just been allowed a kind of a solo out in front again. It's very hard to draw, hard and fast sort of stuff from it. Like, it was again a very, very steadily run race. Like what were I think they were over 6 seconds slower than the mares chase that preceded it, and like they are not top end mares now. They are not the Colreevies now and Ellie Mays of the world. Like they're decent, but they're not at that level. So yeah, very, very inconclusive again. I don't really know what these races mean. He doesn't seem to be. Like what was he, 176? I think at one point, I think he still officially rated 173. He doesn't really look like a 173 to me. Like that's a stratospheric rating. But maybe a 165 is going to be good enough to win a Ryanair. I still think though I'd rather be with some horse that was kind of more up and coming rather than him that seems to be more on the downgrade. And again, maybe Statler sparked back the form. There were points, Statler in his career of offence has looked quite decent. But I just can't get out of my head that Willie Mullins kind of mentioned Hunter chasing for him at the start of the season. So, it's hard to think that he's going to be competitive in grade ones again this spring either.
Well, Tony, we're all looking forward to seeing Phil Dorr, of course. We're all pinning our hopes on Phil Dorr. Hopefully we'll see him over Dublin Racing Festival weekend. And as for Allaho, that leads me on to our next competition, guys. So you're in with a chance to win a £20 or euro free bet courtesy of BoyleSports, but you need to get involved in the YouTube comments box below where I'm pointing now. And the question is simple. Basically, are you with or against Allaho for the Ryanair? I find the Ryanair a very fascinating race and I'm against him and I'm probably with Banbridge. But get involved, let us know, with or against Allaho, why, who else would you be with if you're not with Allaho? Let us know and you could be in with a chance of winning a £20 free bet. And that leads me on to reveal the winner of our free bet from last week, where of course the question was who are you with or against in the Clarence House, and that race didn't even happen. But true to our word, we have a competition winner and it's going the way of, this is obviously on YouTube, at Raymond Malone 9721, who said, got to be my favourite horse in racing, come on John Bon. Now I don't know who chooses these winners, it's in the At The Races head office, so thank you for everyone's contributions in the YouTube comments. I read through them, very interesting thoughts in there, and of course that race rolls on to Cheltenham and we'll be discussing that in due course. Now Tony, We also saw a bit of an upset at Thurles as well with Harmonia Maker, who got the better of the Mullins horse in that graded mare's chase. That was a serious reversal of form from Limerick. Why did that happen?
Harmonia Maker didn't do anything stupid. She's a tendency every second race or third race to throw in something stupid. She jumps left when she's going right-handed, right when she's jumping left-handed, but she was on her kind of best behaviour on Sunday. I'd say getting the lead helped her. Her tour year, I'd say she's more of a 3 miler, tight 2.5 miles around Thurles didn't suit. Her jumping kind of was on the pressure down the back. But, you know, I'd be strongly of the opinion that the third mare was the best in the race by probably a fair bit. Silent approach. Her jumping is absolutely electric. She eats fences now. Taking half a length out of them at all of them. I thought she had them in all bother between the kind of third last and the second last. But she kind of weakened a bit on the run to the final fence and just slowed up a bit from there. I wouldn't put it down to stamina at all. I'd put it down to the fact that she ran 7 days previous. Now the problem with her now is, has the trainer over raced her and given her 2 hard races in the space of 7 days. Probably couldn't resist just come back for the mare's race here at Thurles when the ground came right for her. I presume that was initially the reason why they weren't going to Thurles. They wanted to slow ground of Punchestown. But I'd be quite happy saying that she's the most talented of these, but she would probably want a minimum 4 or 5 weeks off to recover from it. But yeah, like, she's only rated 109 over hurdles, but it's not hard to see why she's a better chaser. Her jumping is just, it's just really good. Haven't seen one jump as well as her now in a long time as the way she went round Thurles here on Sunday.
Oh, very positive mention. Okay. Barry, let's move on to other Irish action. Minella Cocooner, if I can say it right, got back on track in the beginner's chase at Navan, having obviously disappointed a little bit at Leopardstown when we last saw him. That was much more like it, and he is our next price boost for the National Hunt Chase. He was or is generally a 10-1 shot, and he's been boosted out with BoyleSports to 12-1 for you guys out there watching this. Again, limited time only, T's and C's apply, but he is boosted a couple of points for that National Hunt Chase, and I think I'm pretty keen on him. His jumping is very deliberate, isn't it? He's kind of a slow jumper. Is that a fair statement?
I actually thought he was very good, Vanessa. I thought he jumped really well.
I didn't say jump badly. I didn't say jump badly. I just
I thought he was electric. The first down the back, he pinged it. I thought he was brilliant. Give lots of air, lots of scope, travelled really well, wasn't as keen as he was when he won his novice hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival 2 years ago. No, I thought it was a good performance. He was 43 lengths behind Factor File, so he's obviously improved massively, but there is a compliment as well to Factor File as well. I wouldn't take it literally, but I'd say there's a massive improvement from that. That was his first run for 13 months. So no, I thought it was a good show. The slight concern about him for the National Hunt Chase would be, will he settle? You know, you go to Cheltenham, the occasion is enough in itself to lift him, but if you go and step up to 3 miles 6, I think it is now, that, you know, you're going to slow the pace. Will he relax? So that'd be the concern about him for the race. But the performance in Navan, I thought it was very good, and it was a big step in the right direction.
Okay, very positive on him. He's obviously been fragile, a little bit fragile, but he's clearly got a shed load of ability, and nobody listened to me about his jumping, obviously. Barry, let's stick with you, because on the same card we saw Harvard Guy win for the 3rd time this season at Navan. Now he really is on the rise. Where's his ceiling going to stop him?
Well, that's the question. Mark Walsh gave him a brilliant ride. He top weight. The front runner, he just caught him late, but he nursed him. He had great confidence in the horse. But this is third time to winner at Navan. He's been winning on soft to heavy ground over 2.5 miles. So where does he go from here? He's not qualified for Upper Thames, but he is still a novice. So whether he could go the Coral route or the Martin Pipe, which he should squeeze into. He was 131 here when he won in Navan. He's probably going to get £7 or £8 maybe for it. Coming under 140 or just above it. But if he was to be supplemented for the Albert Bartlett, Affordale Fury was 142 after being beaten a length, and Santa Clergan was 141 after being beaten a length and a quarter or so. So his rating would be about the level that you'd want to be competitive in it. So it wouldn't be a shock to see him be supplemented for something like the Albert Bartlett.
Interesting. Okay, well, yeah, Tony, by the time, you know, he's improved nearly £30 basically after this performance. But will he be able to do it on better ground is another question I have for you.
Yeah, he does seem very well suited to be Navan and test some ground. His jumping wouldn't be the quickest. Now, it has sharpened up a bit since that initial win back kind of at their festival in November time. Thing that I took from the race was the run, the second Kilbury Warrior, and more maybe that the trainer is coming into a bit of form. Oliver McKiernan would tend to have a lot more runners through the winter period than he has been having this year. I was looking it up there. I think he'd usually be good for kind of across the kind of November, December, January time, 50 runners or so every kind of season. This season down kind of around about 25. But his horses have kind of hit a bit of form there since the turn of the year. He's had a winner, 2 seconds, 2 fourths, and 2 kind of unplaced horses from his 7 runners. And just an interesting comment there from him after a horse of his won at Punchestown this day last week, Silver King. He said that we're kind of mad happy with the winner, as a few horses weren't that well and we lost a few horses, but they seem to be coming back to themselves, which is great. Naas would be kind of track that he'd be local to. He'd sponsor at Naas a bit. Naas have a couple of half decent meetings coming up now. I think maybe 3 separate ones before Cheltenham, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him popping up with a winner or 2 there over the next 5 or 6 weeks. Just a stable to keep in mind, perhaps.
Okay, keep them on the right side then. And Tony, on the same card at Navan, we saw My Trump Card win the maiden hurdle for Gordon's team. Obviously started out in bumpers. He's sort of developed up to his hurdle campaign this season. Bit of a late bloomer. Is he flying under the radar somewhat or not at all?
No, I'd say it was a bad race. I'd say a lot of good owners, a lot of good colours in this, but I'm not so sure about the horses. Plenty of ones that cost a few quid too. Anyway, I wouldn't think there's a future graded horse in this. My Trump Card, he started out over hurdles, then went back to bumpers, but his jumping in all 3 of his hurdles runs have been fairly poor. I think if there was a novice hurdle to take note of at Navan on Saturday was this Asian Master. Now I know he's been very well suited by conditions, and he's running against a 3-miler, well, at least more of a staying horse and better days ahead, who's probably a bit flattered by his rating too. But oh god, he's a very likeable way of going with this chap that's riding him, the tall fella. His jumping again is just really slick. Like, you'd be looking at him come from a point back, right, having run the Hunter Chase, staying bumper. That how would he be sharp enough for 2 miles? But Willie Mullins, and they're talking about a supreme for him. Now he will probably be guided around the jockey. The jockey looks very capable now for the size of him and for the inexperience of him. So I think the lowest he can get down to kind of do is kind of, I think he was saying 11 stone, he was down at 10-12, I'd say very tight to the margins there on Saturday, but yeah, very likeable horse, this Asian Master, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep progressing.
Okay, another one to keep on side, and yeah, a real springer, well, a bit of a springer in the Supreme market off the back of that, and it'd be fascinating sort of watching his campaign in regards to obviously his connections. That'll have an influence on where he goes, so we will look forward to following him throughout the spring. Barry, High Class Hero, is another who remains unbeaten in now 5 starts for the Mullins team. Obviously, he was a listed winner. He's dropped back down to novice company when winning at Thurles. That was off a break. Again, another horse with a kind of slightly different campaign to the standard.
Yeah, for whatever reason, he hasn't run since October. Maybe he little hold up because he had form on soft and heavy ground, so I can't imagine that ground was necessarily an issue. But good performance, a little bit keen at times, travelled well when he got the split between horses coming down from second last, untidy at the last, and probably levelled off a little bit from there home. But there's a chance there's improvement to come from him. But he's 5 from 5, and any horse that keeps winning, it's hard to take anything away from that. But it was a good performance. I think he's fairly much to the fore in the market for the Albert Bartlett.
Yeah, well, on that note, thank you very much, Barry, because that leads me beautifully on to tell you that he is the final of our price boost for this show in the Albert Bartlett. He was 7-1, and he's been boosted out again 2 points to 9-1, limited time only. But as Barry says, he can only go about and do his job and win, and that's what he's been doing. And that 9-1 may look very generous in the coming weeks. So get involved with that with High Class Hero if you like the look of him, like Barry did. Before we wrap up the kind of look back on the racing from the last week or so, Tony, it's over to you, because one division we do not cover that regularly on this show is the bumper world. I wouldn't even know what's favourite actually right now for the Cheltenham Festival bumper, for example. What is happening in that division this season?
Well, I think you've kind of summed it up there. Maybe not so much as previous years. I think even the champion bumper in a number of recent seasons has settled down in the weeks, months in advance to being a clash between the two big yards. They come back there, you had Envialan versus Blue Sari, then you had Sir Gerhard going against Kilcrit and Facile Vega against American Mike. This season just doesn't seem to have developed that way. Like the favourite for it is Jalon Dudery, who won a pair of bumpers in December, was impressive, but his own big connections who have always said that they hate bumpers, though he does seem to be going for the champion bumper this time round. I suppose the market was crying out for maybe something else to spring a bit, and I suppose the two that have sprung in the last couple of weeks are Romeo Coolio and Maureen. Maureen was really impressive in Punchestown, you'd have to say. The only concern I would have with her, and maybe someone will correct me on this, is I'm a little bit surprised the owners that she has, given the kind of pedigree that she has. I would have thought that one with her kind of background and obvious ability that she showed at Punchestown would be running in one of maybe the yard's major colours, but again, maybe there's a reason for that. Like you've got the Dublin Racing Festival Future Stars Grade 2 coming up, which has been a really good record of producing horse to run well in the champion bumper, but this year just has a really weird feel to it because you've got two horses running in it that are probably going to be towards the head of the market that aren't going to be allowed to run the champion bumper, with A Dream to Share and Redemption Day. They're not qualified. Overall the season has kind of, like, Willie Mullins won a hell of a lot of bumpers kind of in the spring summer period, but since November I think Gordon Elliott has had nearly twice as many bumper winners as him. Jalon Dudery been kind of the key to them, and you would wonder are some of Mullins's kind of early season horses going to come back into it. But the problem is, out of that group, he's probably got the best novice hurdler in every division. Like Mystical Power was a summer bumper winner, so was Reed and Tommy Wrong, and so was the horse that we're after mentioning, their High Class Hero. So like probably the best of them have already gone hurdling. So you just wonder, like, what maybe Joystick's going to be that horse, maybe something like You Ought to Know, who hasn't run in a while but does have that Dublin Racing Festival entry, is going to pitch up. There's also another horse there, like Emmett Mullins had a horse that beat DB Cooper at Fairyhouse. I can't just recall his name at the moment. He also was the DRF entry. So yeah, very, very open picture at the minute. Not a lot of clarity, but yeah, there's probably maybe a horse or two in the champion bumper market that's certainly going to shorten a fair bit in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, a market to keep our eyes on then in the next few weeks, as Tony said there, and of course we'll be covering it in the build-up to the Cheltenham Festival, which really, it'll be coming around quick enough, so we'll be discussing plenty, I am sure. But in the meantime, loads to get through this weekend. Good meetings on both sides of the Irish Sea. We are going to kick off by looking ahead to Cheltenham, please. Just a one-day meeting on the Saturday, of course, their International Hurdle Day, and good racing, and of course the rearranged at Clarence House, as we've been mentioning. But we will kick off, Barry, with the juvenile, the Grade 2, because Burdett Road has an entry here and has Harry Cobden jocked up, obviously unbeaten since he's gone over hurdles, and very prominent in the Triumph Hurdle market. So looking forward to seeing him, but it might not be a piece of cake for him here if some of these horses line up.
Yeah, definitely not. Sir Gino was there. Salvor, who won the Grade 2 in Chepstow at Christmas, he's there as well. But Burdett Road, you'd have to be really impressed with how he won the last day. He beat on Bradon Fassa, who went on and franked that form by winning next to him as well. So, he had a lot to overcome for me that day in Cheltenham. He ran very keen. He was dropped in. His jumping wasn't tidy. I thought it got better as the race developed. But to get over all those things and win as impressively as he did, it's a quality horse, and he's a Royal Ascot winner. He's obviously taken reasonably well to hurdles, so I think he will be hard to beat. But he's got a good testing in Sergino, who he hasn't been overly tested either. He was an impressive winner in Kempton, having won a tie before that. And as I say, Salvor, who looked relentless when he won in Cheps. So it looks as if it could be a smart juvenile.
Yeah, very much so. And then we roll on a couple of races to the Cotswold Chase, Barry. And if these horses show up, you've got horses that have really been catching the headlines all throughout the season. So you've got Royal Pagay in there, The Real Whacker, That's All Right Gino, Stay Away Faye, Ahoy Senor, and Capodanno's in there as well, over from Ireland for the Mullins team. It looks as though if they all run, it's small field, but if they all run, this is going to be an absolute belter.
Definitely, yeah. Obviously, Royal Pagaille beat Braveman's Game at Haydock, so he sets the standard, if you like. But very interesting that Paul Nicholls has entered Stay Away Fay, having only had 2 runs over fences to date. Now, he has been very impressive and he's jumped really well, but he's taken on a lot by taking on seasoned horses like that around Cheltenham. But whether he takes up the entry now remains to be seen, but interesting that he is there. That's all right. Gino is interesting too, coming on the back of his big win at Newbury. But I think a lot of the best of his form is on better ground, so I wouldn't want to get too soft for him. As you say, interesting Capodanno is in here as well too, but it looks a quality race. But as I say, Royal Pagaille probably sets the standard on that Haydock form.
Yeah, Tony, just to mention from you on Capodanno coming over from Ireland, obviously a Mullins horse in a race like this at Cheltenham will always catch the attention, but are you surprised to see him in here?
I am surprised, but then he's got the few entries in the in the hurdle races, the international things like that, which might suggest that he is going to travel a few of them, and he has got so many horses. Capodanno, I was also surprised to see him as the outsider of the 6 here. His season last year was a bit of a car crash, really, because he only came back in late, and Gowran Park, he ran quite well there, but then it was, on the Grand National, tough task. This season, I'd say it's gone a bit smoother. They got a pre-Christmas run, didn't show much there, but showed a hell of a lot more in the Savage Chase at Christmas, kind of staying on well. And this is a drop in grade, wouldn't be facing those kind of really top level stay and chasers. I know Royal Pagaille does have the grade 1 win, but maybe away from his more favoured track, he may not be as effective. So yeah, I think if Capodanno travels, he's a very interesting runner with a big chance.
Lively, I like it. Rearranged Clarence House, Barry Geraghty, please, next. John Bon is your very short price favourite because, of course, no El Fabiolo. Disappointing not to see that clash happen at Ascot, but great, I personally think, to have it rearranged and we get to see the race run this time at Cheltenham. And of course, Editor Djit is in there as next best second favourite for the Gary Moore team. Supplemented Fugitive probably have to step up, but of course he's done it around Cheltenham this season. Elixir de Nuts in there, and then Funambul Savola and Nube Negra. Ground dependent Nube Negra is the only one currently not jocked up. So again, if this field turn up and John Bon puts on a show, is it going to be a walkover for a horse like John Bon against those sort of horses?
On the form book it could be, but then when you read into the form a little bit further, maybe not. So Editor Geet beat Nube Negra and Alexa Nuts in Kempton at Christmas, but Editor De Geet has been 30 lengths and 40 lengths behind John Bon on their 2 meetings to date. But Editor De Geet won this race last year when it was rescheduled to Cheltenham as well. He beat Edward Stone and he beat Anorgamine 6 lengths. That's very strong form. So if he was to reproduce that, I think it's a proper test for John Bon. So it's going to be interesting. John Bon is the one to beat. Fugitive, I just worry, is 2 mile going to be a little bit sharp for him. He stayed on from off the pace to beat El Rodotto, so I'm not fully convinced he would have the pace for the race. To me, Editor Geet would be the one and probably the only one who could really give John Bon something to think about.
Okay, Editor Djit versus John Bon. On we go to the international hurdle. Obviously, no Constitution Hill. Disappointing. Barry, do you have any update on Constitution Hill, just in terms of his well-being?
Yeah, no, I was speaking with Michael Buckley during the week, or last week. Yeah, no, he said he's okay, not a major issue, but just enough to keep him out of Cheltenham, unfortunately. But we look forward to seeing him at the festival. But no, there was no major concern.
Okay, happy days. And then in terms of the horses that are going to run in the international, or are entered anyway, the fascination will be in and around Impere Pass, who has the entry for the Mullins Yard again, off the back of finishing, a good second behind a horse like Statement when we last saw him. Love Envoy in there. Lossy Mouth has an entry. Rubo. Not sure if all of these will show up. Under Control and First Street for the Nicky Henderson Yard as well. And Willie has another horse in there as well. So not entirely sure we'll see all of these names, but if we saw Impere Pass, that would be exciting, Barry.
That would be exciting. He was unlucky to be as keen as he was in the Hatton's Grace, and he got beaten by Tia Hupu, and then he got beaten by Stateman. And he ran a good race behind Stateman. I'm not saying he could have beaten him or should have beaten him, but I think he left a lot of that race potentially in Farias in the Hatton's Grace. It was only about, 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks turnaround in that. So I'm not fully sure we saw the best Imperial Pass behind Statement, but that's not saying he would have beaten him. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes here. I think he'll take a lot of beating if he does. If he doesn't, Does Lossiemouth turn up then? She'd Gala Masu behind her in the Triumph for the last season. And Love Envy is there as well. So better ground would be a big help for her too. So it's going to be interesting. But Imperial Pass will be the one you'd really want to see.
Yeah, I really hope he runs him. I'm not sure, but I hope we see him. And then a quick mention, Barry, to the Cleve Hurdle before we move over to the Irish action this week. The Cleve Hurdle once again, and like all these names, Champ has an entry, Dashel Drasha has an entry, Mary's Rock has provided like a lot of debate this season in this regard. Noble Yates has an entry for the Emmett Mullins Yard, obviously the national winner, and of course Paisley Park in there too. Throw in the Mare West Balboa as well. Stayers hurdling division. We love to see it, don't we, Barry?
We do. A lot of old timers there. Champ, Paisley Park, especially Dashel Drasher. But I thought Paisley Park ran a brilliant race in Ascot. They didn't go overly quick. Ground was probably as good as he'd want it. So it's going to be slightly slower at the weekend in Cheltenham. You'd like to think there'd be a better gallop. I thought he overcame a good bit runner as well as he did at Ascot. So he would be the one for me. And I'm keen to see Marie's Rock. I think there's better coming from her. Stepping back up to 3 Mile again. She didn't see it out in Aintree when she probably got competitive earlier than ideal. I don't think she was at her best in Newbury. She ran well behind Bob Ollinger. So it'll be interesting then as well to get a look at that Bob Ollinger form. So hopefully she turns up here. But Paisley Park for me be the one who'd set the standard.
Yeah, Mary's Rock really does divide opinion with people who think she's a stayer, other people who do not. But this weekend, hopefully, will give us some answers to that. That was a rattle through the Cheltenham card on Saturday. So much to look forward to. Myself and Barry will be there on the ground. And, of course, we'll be discussing it all next Monday. Can't wait for that. But Tony, not to abandon Ireland. We should mention the Galmoy Hurdle, the grade 2 on the card, an excellent card as you'd expect. And the Devil's Coachman is in there, top of the market currently, 7-4 with BoyleSports to continue his sort of redevelopment as a hurdler. Now he's back over the smaller obstacles. Monkfish, long awaited reappearance from him. He's had a few sort of false starts this season, it feels. He's next best. He has an entry in there. Those are your top 2. How do you see the Galmoy playing out, Tony?
It's just probably an ordinary enough running of it, and the one that would interest me most is Farouk Delaine. I kind of expected to see him among the Thyestes entries. Kind of horse that would kind of build up into that type of horse. He was the horse that was kind of a little bit unlucky in the L'Homme Presse Broadway chase. He was coming there travelling well, I think 2 out, and kind of fell. That would have been a very strong run to that race at the time with the winner and a High Seigneur and other good horses coming out kind of from behind that. But he started off back this season, missed the season, started back this season, fell early in the Tri-Town, and then kind of ran ordinary at Thurles, but you kind of forgive that because it was effectively his first run in a long time. Gordon Elliott made the decision to drop him back over hurdles then at Christmas in the Pertemps qualifier, and thought he ran a really good race under a big mark. And I think he's well worth a go in this kind of grade with such a positive effort the last day, and testing ground would very much be his thing. So I think he has a chance of being very competitive here. Okay,
Farouk Delaine then is about 3rd best in the market currently, behind the Devil's Coachman and Monkfish for the Galmoy Hurdle. Guys, we've rattled through that. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Let's do tracker time, please. Barry, I will start with you to continue our good form with the tracker horses. Who would you like viewers and listeners to put in their tracker from the last 7 days?
I thought St. Denis as well put in a good performance in Navan. His first number of fences jumped really well. He was in front from the back of the third last and didn't look like he wanted to be there at all. So he was waiting on Dawson in front, and I don't think he shows the handicapper everything the handicapper needs to see. So I'd say there's improvement in him, and I'd say he's a little bit up his sleeve. All his best form is in soft ground, but I think he can follow this up against St. Denis as well.
St. Denis as well for Barry. And Tony, over to you please, your tracker horse.
Another one winner from a kind of low grade Irish handicaps here, a horse called Maraconi. He won at Punchestown again the Monday before last. Was dropping back the 2 miles, and that very much looks his thing. He's a strong traveller, and Chic Pieces seem to have brought a little bit of improvement with him. He was off 94 here. I think he gets put up to 103, but this was a 0 to 109, and he is going to have access to that kind of grade again. I'd say he's well up to win again in that level. Trainer is a capable man, Ray Hackett. And he mentioned something afterwards about him going for the final of this thing. It's called the Full Circle Series. It's run at the Punchestown Festival. It's kind of a qualifying race for kind of low grade handicappers, but it would be very competitive because there is that kind of prize money, prestige, and the qualification process. He strikes me as a fella that would aim at races like that, because I think it was October, November before last. There's a kind of an equivalent series on the flat called the Gain the Advantage Series, and I think he won that with a couple of I can't just recall the names of the horses, but anyway, he was obviously targeting at it because he wouldn't have a wild lot of horses. So again, showed a bit of nous there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Morricone pitched up to Punchestown with a life in a race like that, because he does look to be going the right way.
Okay, shrewd trainer, knows where the money is, like it. All right, well, look, boys, thank you very much, as always, for your contributions. Listeners and viewers, mainly out there, do get involved with that competition. Are you with or against Allaho? You could be in with a chance. That's for the Ryanair, by the way. Are you with or against him? And you could be in with a chance of winning a £20 free bet. So get stuck into that in the comments box below. Also, those price boosts, including the L'Homme Presse one that we were talking about at the top of the show. You've also got High Class Hero in there, and Minella Cocooner 2 for the National Hunt Chase. So those are your price boosts, but limited time only, and read the T's and C's with BoyleSports. That'll be over on their website. But for now, thank you very much for tuning in, as always, and join us again next week when we'll be discussing all that action from not only Ireland but Cheltenham as well. So we will have another ram-packed show for you. That was Off the Fence.